Charlotte. I'm on our community team here at Ramp, and I will be leading today's session. So this is our Ramp 101. It's everything you need to know to get set up, invite people to your team, issue cards, reimbursements, how those work, all of the getting started kind of things. We also have accounting and bill pay sessions, and both of those are tomorrow. So the accounting session is in the morning at 11:30 Eastern, and then the bill pay session is in the afternoon at 2 p.m. I just put the link in the chat to sign up for both of those. So come hang out and we'll talk all things bill pay and accounting. And then also, speaking of the chat, my wonderful colleague Izzy, she's here today to help answer questions. So anything you have, go ahead and put those in there and we will get to them. And then also, everything's recorded. So everything that I share on my screen, as well as the chat, your questions, Izzy's answers, everything like that will be recorded and sent to you after the session. So like 5 to 10 minutes after we end, you will get that recording. We'll get started. I think I'll give everyone maybe like 1 or 2 more minutes to get here. But in the meantime, if you feel comfortable using the chat and you want to share where you're calling in from, I would love to see. It's fun to see if anyone's in the same city or, near me. So I'm in New York and so is Izzy. But if anyone feels comfortable sharing, would love to see. Thanks, Chris. 2 Chris's. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Jody, Gina. Awesome. Do we have anyone else in New York? Or do we have anyone from North Carolina? That's where I grew up, so it's fun to see. Right. A couple Ohio today, a couple California, Virginia, Georgia. Okay, thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks for sharing. All right. Last kind of housekeeping thing is if you want to get your Ramp account pulled up, now would be the time. I'm going to give you a few moments here and there to take some actions in your own accounts. So if you want to get that pulled up, you can. Otherwise, you can sit back, kind of just absorb everything and watch the recording later. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen and I can't see or hear you. So if you could give me an emoji or a thumbs up or something like that to let me know that you can see my screen, that's helpful. It's like we're here together when you do the emojis. So, here we go. You should see it now. So let me know. All right, thanks guys. Thanks, Chris. Alrighty, thanks everyone. So appreciate the emojis. All right, we are in. So what I'm working out of today is my demo account. It's basically a fake company with fake transactions and fake employees, all of that. But it pretty much mirrors your real accounts and how they're set up. And so first thing we're starting in is the setup guide. This is in the top left corner, and it'll be here for the next 2 months of your onboarding. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's a guide to getting set up. And it's basically an onboarding checklist of different things to complete or resources to read as you are learning about Ramp. And I will say right here, we're at 64% complete. So that's not great. I mean, it's nowhere near 100%. And I'll also point out that our customers who either have reached that 100% or gotten really close to it, so like 98, 99, they have the highest amount of time and money savings. And I know that's one of the reasons that we're all here, because it's the main reason Ramp was designed, to save you time and money. So basically, for this page, I recommend coming here. I recommend checking it out and making sure you understand how Ramp works in its entirety. And also, if you get stuck or lost or confused, think of it as your North Star. It's here for the next 2 months, and it probably either has the answer or can help you find the answer. Okay, moving on. We're now going to go to expenses, and then this first tab right here that says card transactions. And so this is the transactions page. This is going to give you the most comprehensive overview of everything in your account, but primarily your real-time spend. So who is spending, where they're spending, all of that. You'll see right here you have your current balance. So that's how much your team has spent so far in the given month. That's that current balance. And that comes out of your total business limit. So this number right here, for me, it's $2 million. That's basically your credit limit. That's how much your team has to spend on Ramp each month. You'll see right here when your next statement payment is due. So for me, September 3rd, that's when that's due. That date is set 30 days from when you make your first transaction. So for me, let's say I made my first transaction on August 3rd. That date, it's going to be due on September 3rd. However, I can change that date. If I'd rather it be the first of the month or the last of the month or a different day that best aligns with when I pay my bills, I can change it. I just have to pay off the first month first. So September 3rd comes around, I pay that off, and then I can reach out to the Ramp support team and ask for it to be changed by filing a ticket, and they'll help me. And then it'll be whatever day I would prefer it to be. You'll see your cash back right here, which we'll talk about how to redeem in just a second. We're now going to click this payments button in the top right. So I'm still on expenses and transactions, just clicking the green yellow payments button in the top right. And this is the payment section. So you'll see your current balance here again. You'll also notice that we have almost $3,000 of pending transactions, and they're pending. They have the potential to change. So you don't owe them in this very given moment, like right now, you don't owe them because they're pending. But once they become cleared transactions, you will owe them, and they will be reflected in your current balance. If you want to make a manual payment at any point in the month, you can do so here by clicking Make Manual Payment. And then we'll scroll down to this payment history section. So right here, you'll see all of your manual payments, all of your automatic payments, and then if you've redeemed any cash back, which as you can see I have right here, that would show up. And then speaking of cash back, I have all this cash back. And so in my account, it doesn't let me click redeem, but in your accounts, you would click redeem. And there's a few different ways that you can redeem the cash back. One, most people use it to pay down their monthly statement balance, which is a great option, but there's also additional rewards or like gift cards, things that you can redeem with it. And the cash back you'll earn on your card transaction. So it accumulates, becomes available, and then you redeem it. Last thing here in this section is the ability to enable early automatic payments. And I think this is a really cool feature, so I'll explain it. But basically, this is great if you are having a really high spend month and you're worried that you're going to reach that total business limit, or you're getting really close to that total business limit, but you still have several large transactions to make, or whatever reason that you'd like to have peace of mind that, okay, I'm not going to reach that total business limit and any new transactions aren't going to be declined. This is for you. So you would click setup, and then you get this drop down of these different options. So you could say, okay, 50, 60, 70, 80%. Let's go with 70%. That means when I reach 70% of my total business limit, so for me, 70% of that $2 million, the funds are going to be automatically pulled from my company's linked bank account. The way that I think about this and like to explain it is it's not increasing your credit limit from $2 million to $3 or $4 million, just flat out. But by having these funds extracted, by paying it down mid-month and having the funds pulled from your company's linked bank account, starts you back over at zero. And in total, you can spend much more than your total business limit. So it gives you that flexibility to spend more. It gives you that wiggle room. And essentially, you could keep having it reset throughout the month. So pretty cool option, especially if you need that flexibility with your spend. But also at the same time, it is optional. So if you don't want to turn it on, you don't have to. Okay, back to expenses. A few more things to point out in this page here. So you'll notice this statements button right here. I'm going to click that. This is where you would see all of your monthly statement history. Again, my account's fake, so I only have one here. But in your account, you would see all of your history, not just one. And then looking down at the actual transactions, so they're all right here. A couple things to point out. First is we have a lot of them. We have 1,500 transactions. You might have even more than that on certain months. And so if you're looking for something that happened like a long time ago or kind of a one-off transaction or something small, it might be kind of hard to find. So if you click this add filter button, you have all these different ways and methods to narrow down this list. So we can narrow it down by specific dollar amounts. We can narrow it down by specific teams. Maybe we want to see just a cardholder. We want to see just Michael Scott's transactions or just my engineering department's transactions. So lots of different ways to narrow this down and find what I'm actually looking for. This button is great to be aware of as well. It's the calendar icon, and you can filter and narrow down by date range. So just today, you could do last month, you could do this week, anything like that. Okay. Now we're going to be shifting gears a little bit to the settings. So we're leaving expenses, transactions, and going down to settings. If you're following along, it's at the bottom of the gray tab. And if anyone's curious what our fake company is today, it's a donut restaurant. So every time I log in, the fake company changes, and that's what we're working with today. Charlotte's Donut Restaurant. Now we'll be in settings, expense policy. So settings at the bottom, expense policy. First thing you'll notice in expense policy is this expense policy document. And that's a great option to upload if you have one or your team is thinking about making one, because what it is it's a document that outlines the rules and responsibilities of your company cardholders using the company cards. So where they can spend, how they can spend, what's expected of them. By having it here in a document that's posted on your company's website, we'll send it out to your team for them to acknowledge and sign. And that way, everyone's on the same page. There's a shared understanding about how they can spend, where they can spend, and there's no confusion. There's no gray area. It's posted. Everyone's on the same page. So really great way to align the team and make sure that people are following their policies. We're now going to click into this box right here that says expense requirements. So I'm in settings, expense policy, and then expense requirements. Now, you'll likely have multiple of these policies. These policies determine when someone makes a transaction, so when they make an expense, what's required of them. Do they need to submit a receipt? Do they need to submit a memo? So that's like a little blurb about why they made the transaction. Do they need to submit any accounting information? Is anything else required of them? That's where you put these. And I'll say at Ramp, we have, more than one policy. We have a lot of policies. Most teams have more than two. So you can make them for specific teams, departments, individuals. Maybe you have one for just your CEO or your owner. Maybe you have one for just workers that work in the field or just work in factories, and one for workers that just work in the office. Really, however you want to organize and set up your team. But the great thing is that you can make them for all sorts of different groupings of people. We'll just click into this general expenses one right here to show you how it looks. So we'll click edit. And this might look a little overwhelming, but you're really just saying, like, if XYZ happens, then they need to submit XYZ. So if it's just a regular card transaction on this policy and that transaction is greater than $75, they're going to be required to submit a receipt. Maybe I also want to require a memo from these folks. So I can click add, click required field, and then type in memo, click save changes. So now if anyone has a card that's attached to this policy, which when we get to cards, I'll show you what I mean by that. But basically you attach these policies to different people's cards. So if anyone has a card that's attached to this general expenses expense policy and they make a transaction that's over $75, they will be required to submit a receipt and then required to submit a memo. That's all it is. You can save that workflow. And then, like I said, we can create other policies for different people or different groups of employees. So maybe we would make one that's called like my CEO and owner policy. Maybe I make it kind of like the path of least resistance for her. And I say, she only needs a receipt on certain transactions and she doesn't need to do memos because, again, path of least resistance, I want to make it easy for her. So maybe I make that. But again, you can always come back in here and make these policies at any point in time. It's not just when you're setting up your account. If you're, 4 months from now thinking, oh, we could really benefit from this policy, you can always add it. Okay. Last thing I want to show in the settings. So I'm still in settings. I'm just going to go down to integration. So 2 little boxes below expense policy here. So I've clicked integrations. And at Ramp, we know that it's a huge, huge hassle to chase down receipts, to constantly nag your employees to get this receipt in for some random transaction, or they said, they don't have it, or you just feel like you're always bothering them. And we know that causes a lot of headaches. And we're trying to help alleviate those headaches and help alleviate that. So one way we're doing that is our receipt and invoice capture. So right here in this first box, I'm going to click that. And this is a great option to turn on if you use either Gmail or Outlook for your business email, or any of these businesses as well. And basically what it is anytime you receive a PDF receipt at either of these business emails, Ramp will scan that incoming PDF. And if it's able to match that receipt to a transaction within your Ramp platform, it'll copy that receipt and attach it. So scans the incoming email, super secure. If it's able to attach that PDF receipt to the transaction, boom, it'll copy it, it'll paste it, your work there is done. You don't have to do anything. So it's a win-win for you and the team because you turn it on once for the business as a whole and then basically sit back and watch the receipts come in without having to lift a finger. You don't have to screenshot them, you don't have to take photos of them, you don't have to forward them anywhere, just easy. And you might even forget that you have it turned on and then get an email like, congrats, we've successfully matched your receipt. And you're like, I don't remember having a receipt. And then you realize, oh, I have this amazing integration turned on and I didn't have to do anything. Also, when you turn it on for the business as a whole, employees will opt into this. So not everyone has to do it if they don't want to. And then, like I said, we have it for these businesses as well. So pretty cool. Okay, before we move on, so next thing that we're going to talk about is inviting people to your team, which is very exciting. But before we get there, I just want to make sure that this makes sense so far, that, we're all good to keep going. I know it might be the first time a lot of people have seen Ramp or are like really kind of diving into it. So if you get a little thumbs up or a little pulse check, that would be super helpful. And we will keep going. We'll talk about how to invite people to your team. Okay. Thanks everyone for the emojis. Appreciate it. Okay, we will keep going then. Thank you. I'm glad it's making sense. Cool. Okay, so we're gonna go to the people section now. It's kind of towards the bottom as well. So I'll give everyone a second to get there. Okay. So these are all of your people. Oh, love the emoji, Brent. Thank you. These are all of your people. You can look at them by all. You can go by specific departments or locations. If you have custom groups, you can look at it that way as well. And much like there's a few different ways to look at the people, there's also 3 different ways to invite people to your team. So if you click invite people, this yellow-green button in the top right. So again, we're in people. Now I'm clicking invite people. The first way is if you have your HRIS system integrated. So for example, I have Humans.io integrated right here. I can pull in that employee information and then from there, send out a batch bulk of invites to those employees. So if I wanted to just easily pull in that information, I would click invite from Humans.io or whatever HRIS system you have, and then that would help me send out a batch bulk of invites. The second way, so I'm going to go back, people over here, and then invite people. The second way is inviting an individual person. And when you invite a singular person, you have to assign them a role. So employee, that's likely the majority of your cardholders. That's the individual contributor. They can request cards. They can be issued cards. They make transactions. They submit reimbursement requests. All of that fun stuff. But they're still managed by their manager. And basically their manager still approves all of that. And they cannot invite people to the team. So above them, above the employee is the manager. And like I said, the managers manage every aspect of the employee's Ramp accounts. So they approve card requests, they approve transactions, they approve reimbursement requests, all of that. And they invite people to their team. Above the manager is the admin. And if you're an admin, which I imagine most people on this call are an admin, kudos to you. You have all the power. You can change all the settings. And I have to say, with great power comes great responsibility. And don't make every single person in your company an admin because, well, that might be kind of chaotic if everyone can change the settings and the rules. So be strategic, be thoughtful about who you make an admin. But if you are one, you're the head of honcho. You can do everything in the account. We also have these 2 roles right here. So guest user role, that's great for volunteers or contract workers or temporary workers. And then IT admin, that's exactly what it sounds like. And then these last 2 right here, so bookkeeper and external accounting firm, they might look a little bit different, but they're actually cut from the same cloth, very similar. Bookkeeper, that's going to be your internal teammate that needs access to all of your accounting data. And then external accounting firm, we'll click in here. This is if you work with an external accounting firm. So you would invite them via their email address right here, and then you would assign them a role. And by assigning them a role, they're not exactly joining your team. So they're getting the same permissions and abilities as an admin or as a bookkeeper, but they're still external. They're not part of your team exactly. But they can interact with that accounting page and see all of those things. I will say also that if you give them admin permissions, they cannot release funds from your account. That would still have to come from a true admin or a true company owner, just because these people still aren't on your team. So anytime funds are being released or money's leaving the account, it would have to come from a real admin. But otherwise, the external accounting firm could do all the other admin permissions. Third way to invite people is inviting multiple people at once in a bulk upload, in a bulk invite. So over here in people, we're still here. There's 2 ways to get to this next spot. One is clicking invite people and then clicking upload CSV. So I'll click that. And I'm brought to this page that says bulk invite via CSV. It's a bit of a tongue twister. Bear with me. The other place you can get to that exact same place is clicking these 3 little dots right here and then clicking bulk invite via CSV again. From here, super straightforward. You'll just download this template and then fill it out with everyone's information. So Izzy's name, her email, her role, Brian's name, his email, his role, so on and so forth in a giant spreadsheet. And then you would add all of their card information as well. So in the same spreadsheet, all of the card information. And then you would click import, upload that spreadsheet, and then click send invites, and Ramp would send out that batch bulk of invites to all of those employees and get them all invited at the same time, which is pretty cool. So let's make an invitation together. Let's invite Izzy to our donut restaurant. So we'll click invite people. We'll invite her as an employee. Do Izzy at dr.com. Very legit company and email, as you can tell. So we have that email entered in. And then from there, we need a manager, department, and location. So let's say that Izzy is on Calvin's team. Calvin's her manager, and you can see he manages the engineering team. And then let's say we're looking through all of the departments, and yes, he manages the engineering team, but let's say she's on something more specific and she's actually on the solutions engineering team. But I don't see that as a department option. What do? I can type it in. I can create it. So I'll type in solutions engineering. So I've typed that in, and then I'll click create right here. And now the department has been created. So when I go back and look at the departments, it's an option to choose from, and it exists, which is pretty cool that it happens that instantaneously. We also need a location. Now, when I click this drop down, you'll see that our locations are US cities as well as London. If you have a better or different way to organize your team, please feel free. You don't have to group them by like actual cities or actual places. I'll also point out that some folks have maybe like remote as a location and then like New York City. If that's where your office is, maybe you have New York and remote, or maybe you have remote and East Coast or something like that. You don't have to do like actual physical places. That's just how we've set it up at Ramp. For today, it's been nice in New York. Let's keep Izzy here. So email, manager, department, and then location. From there, we would issue Izzy a card. I'm going to hold off because it's much easier to talk through cards when I show them, which happens in like 4 minutes. It's the next thing we're going to talk about. So hang tight. We're not going to issue a card, but for the sake of the example, we're going to pretend we did. So we'll click send invite. And now that invitation has been sent. Izzy has been invited to our team. I'm going to give everyone a minute right now to make an invitation. If you don't know where to start, I recommend just inviting like one teammate whose information you know. Or if you're feeling, ambitious, extra on top of it, you can invite an admin, manager, and an employee. So, for example, if you're an admin, maybe invite a manager and an employee, and you can see how these roles start to interact and work together. Third option is we're about halfway through right now. So if you'd rather kind of just like sit back, have a little intermission, totally understand that as well. And we'll keep going with cards in just a minute. So I'll give everyone a minute right now, and then we'll keep moving on. Thanks, guys, for all of these questions in the chat. And Izzy, thanks for all the answers as well. All right, maybe like 20 more seconds or so, and then we'll keep going. Okay, I'm going to keep going, but if you're still inviting, that's fine. You can keep doing it, or like I said, you'll receive this recording, so you can always go and watch them at the end and see how I did all of that. A couple other things to show in the People tab before we move on to cards, actually. So let's say someone's getting promoted. Oh, and also, I'm surprised no one has said it yet. Someone usually catches it just between this and the other pages with the transactions. But half of our employees are real-life Ramp people. The other half are characters from a very popular TV show. So whoever gets it first, you get the honor and glory of getting it first. But if you don't know, here are your 2 hints. And I'm sure someone will get it in the next 5 seconds. Maybe not, but I'm sure someone will get it. Yep, and Chris, you got it, and Anne, and Drew, and Alexandria. Good job, guys. Yes. Very random that it's the Office characters, but it does make it fun when we go to promote them, which is what we're doing right now. So let's say Dwight, everyone who watches that show knows Dwight. Let's say he's an employee and we want to make him a manager. So big promotion for Dwight. We're going to click on Dwight's profile. And right here where it says edit profile, we're going to click that. And then right here where it says employee, we're going to click edit one more time. So these are all the roles. We know that. He's currently an employee, but we want to make him a manager. We're going to click on manager. We're going to click save changes. And now, where did he go? Dwight is a manager. So it updates instantly and it's reflected immediately, which is pretty cool. Same thing goes if it's time for someone to go. So sorry, Dwight, but we're going to click edit profile and we're going to scroll down to the danger zone. And Izzy has heard me say this 1,000,001 times, but the danger zone, much like in real life, if you encounter a danger zone, you probably don't hang out there. You probably avoid it. It's best to avoid it and not touch anything. Same thing goes for ramp. We'll find this danger zone today and then a few more throughout the other trainings. And it's called that for a reason. So basically don't hang out here unless you're actually locking or removing the account. We'll click remove account and then we would first figure out his reimbursements and then we would follow the steps to terminate him. However, he just got promoted, so we'll let him stay. Last thing is how do you change someone's manager or role or things like that, or like team. We would click into his profile again. We would click edit profile and we would scroll down to this section and we can easily send him to Calvin's team and maybe we send him to Izzy's solutions engineering department. And now he is Izzy's problem. So good luck. And we'll click save changes. And when I look at Dwight's profile, those changes are reflected immediately as well. So updated instantly. All right. Awesome. Love it. Thanks, guys. Okay, so now we're going to move on to cards. So if you're following along, we're going to cards over here in the gray tab. It's kind of in smack dab in the middle, basically. Oh, one other thing about people is if you want to create a department or location from this page, you absolutely can. You can just click the 3 little dots and then click create department or create location. Sometimes you get questions about that. Okay, now back to cards. So on Ramp, you'll have both physical and virtual cards. If you've never used virtual cards before or you've never heard of them, bear with me. I'm going to get you on board. I promise they're very easy to use. And also, beyond that, your team will love using them because when they're out and about and they're spinning in these different ways and uploading receipts, it just makes it all very seamless and easy. So let's scroll down to we'll just stick with Dwight. I'll just stick with him for the examples today. So let's click into Dwight's office supplies card. So when I look at the actual card, click on it, flips around, reveals all of the card details. This is a virtual card right here. And much like a physical card that you hold in your hands, this virtual card has a 16-digit card number. It has an expiration date. It has a 3-digit CVV number. It also has Dwight's name on the card, as well as that billing address. And that's just my fake office address in the account. So functionally, pretty much the exact same as a physical card. The only difference is it's not physical. I can't hold it. Like if I try to touch it, it's on my computer on the Ramp platform. I can't touch it. I can't hold it. Whereas your physical cards, those can go in your wallet or your purse or your pocket, wherever else. But functionally, it works pretty much the same way. And you only have one physical card. So it doesn't matter if you are the CEO, if you are the owner, if you've been there for 25 years, if you've been there for 1 month, if you've been there for a day, you only have one physical card, but you'll have multiple of these virtual cards. Some common examples of virtual cards are things like this, like office supplies or a wellness stipend. Other examples are for travel. They're great for trips, so you can book your flight on a card, hotel on that same card, any meals and entertainment on that same card, any transportation, all on that one card. Other things like vendor specific cards, which we'll walk through in our examples, but you could make a card specifically for Amazon or a virtual card specifically for DoorDash or Uber. And anytime you use those vendors and pay and make transactions there, you use that one specific card. So basically, possibilities, are endless, and you can have a bunch of different virtual cards for a bunch of different reasons. Let's walk through an example of using this card. So I have this office supplies card. Instead of Dwight, let's say it's Charlotte's office supplies card. And we ran out of paper at the office and I'm tasked with going to get it. So instead of having to hunt down my office manager for his card or maybe my manager for her office supplies card, I can have my own. Again, it's Charlotte's office supplies card. So I go to Staples or Target or wherever, And let's say when I get there, I want to use my one physical ramp card. I want to like actually tap it or swipe it. So what do? I can link this virtual office supplies card. I will link it to my physical card. So now that's linked. That means my physical card will act as this office supplies card. It'll take on all the attributes of the card. So the limit, that'll be on the card. Any restrictions, any rules, those will all be on the card. So now my physical card is acting as the office supplies card. I swipe, make that transaction, we're good to go. Right after that, I'm taking a customer out to lunch. And when that check comes around, I want to put my card down. But it's still linked to my virtual office supplies card. And of course, I don't need to use that for lunch. I need to use maybe my meals and entertainment card. So how do I do that? I can swap out this virtual office supplies card. I can swap it out and instead link my virtual meals and entertainment card to my physical card. So now my one physical card, the only one that I have, is going to act as a meals and entertainment card. And that check comes around, I put my card down, and that transaction will go on that card. So again, it's taking on the attributes of my meals and entertainment card. So it has that limit, it has any rules and restrictions that are on that card, all of that. So just in that example, in the span of like maybe an hour and a half of my day, I used 2 different cards. So you can imagine that if you're, spending even more than that and spending in all these different ways, it's really easy to keep things organized as a user and, keep all of your transactions squared away, keep receipts squared away, all of that. But then as an admin or someone that's kind of setting the controls in your account, you can set different rules. You can set different restrictions. You can block certain merchants. You can block certain categories. However you want to shake it, which we'll walk through when we make the cards together, you really have total control over how your employees spend with these cards. So pretty cool. If it's still confusing, we're going to make 2 cards together right now. So we're still on cards over here on the left, and we're going to click Issue Spend. Let's first make a physical card because everyone will have only one. So it doesn't matter who you are. Again, CEO, person that's been there for 2 weeks, doesn't matter, you'll have one physical card. So let's click into physical card, and then we'll have to choose someone. Whenever I log into my fake account, it's kind of like roulette of finding who doesn't have one. So Dwight has one. Okay, great, we'll make one for Elizabeth. So who is it for? It's for Elizabeth. And what is it for? It's Elizabeth's physical card. So we'll just type that in. So who is it for? Elizabeth. What is it for? Elizabeth's physical card. From there, we need an amount, currency, and frequency for her card. So we'll say that the amount is, maybe she gets $1,000 US every quarter. And this can just be for kind of like miscellaneous things, miscellaneous expenses, testing out the product, taking people out for coffee, all of that. And I'm just looking at the chat really quick. Dory, I see that question about why the physical card has a limit. So when I make this, I'll show you what happens. But even with your physical card, there is a virtual version because you might want to use this card in an online store or on Amazon or something like that. And so you can still use the card number when you're waiting on the physical card to arrive at your office or whatever it may be. So it still needs to have a limit. However, you could set the limit really high if you didn't want to, feel bogged down by it or have your employees feel bogged down by it. And yep, to your question above, absolutely. It often does. The cards are often smart enough to know which card to apply it to. This is just for keeping things organized. And you can go ahead and select it ahead of time. That's what I do personally. But yep, they often are smart enough to know how to apply the transactions to which cards. So I'll keep going, but Izzy can follow up with a little bit more information on that. But I'll show you why this physical card would need the limit as well in just a second. So from there, it's physical. So it's physically being shipped to Elizabeth, like I said. So we need a mailing address. So we can either ask Elizabeth or we can send it to her address and type it in there. Or maybe I can send it to the office address. And that way, you just enter that in and it will get sent to the office. In this advanced section right here where it says additional reviews, I can click that. And this is going to determine who approves and reviews all of these transactions on Elizabeth's physical card. So if I want the manager to review and approve everything, they absolutely can. And I'll confirm that address. It's just going to tell me it's fake. We know that it's a fake account. And then I will click issue. So in the meantime, that card, it's physical. It's physically being shipped to Elizabeth. But let's say this is the only card she has, or she wants to start spending immediately. She can click on it. And when it flips around, here's all of the virtual details. So she could copy this information, and little insider tip, if you click these boxes, it copies the number. So you don't have to write it down. You don't have to drag it across that way, anything like that. You can just copy the little card number and enter it into whatever website or wherever you're paying and start using this. So this is a great way to be able to use the card before the physical card actually gets there. So Dory, let me know if that doesn't answer that question about the limit. But happy to dive into that further. Okay, and then to make a virtual card, let's do that together as well. We'll click Issue Spend, and then we'll click Virtual Card. And let's make one for Creed. Let's say that Creed is an employee on my marketing team, and I want to make him a card that's specific to Facebook ads. Let's say he's running a giant growth social campaign on Facebook ads, and he needs a card specifically for the spend. So who is it for? It's for Creed. What is it for? It's for Facebook ads card for that spend. So it's a very specific use case. From there, we need an amount, currency, and frequency. So let's say Creed gets the big bucks, $1,000 every week to run these different Facebook ads, growth campaigns, social experiments, all of that. So who is it for? What is it for? And then amount, currency, frequency. From there, we'll attach the submission policy to it. So earlier, towards the beginning of the session, we talked about, okay, these expense requirements, these expense policies, what are those? And you're just making different policies for the different cards, different groupings of people that say, when do you need to submit a receipt? When do you need to submit a memo? Is any other additional information, such as accounting information, required? Maybe it's someone that works in the field. Do I need my customer code or my job code on these transactions? You can add that as well in your expense policies. But for this, let's keep it simple. Let's say Creed's just a regular employee, and we just want that general expenses policy, meaning a receipt's going to be required and a memo is going to be required for those transactions above $75. So again, all this information looks good to go. In the advanced section right here, where it says spending controls and restrictions, I'm going to click that. And right here where it says restrict categories and merchants, I'm going to click add restrictions. And earlier when I mentioned, you can set different controls, different rules, all of this stuff on these cards. This is where this really comes into play to give you, control over how your employees are spending. So with categories, these are the ramp categories. You can either allow or block certain things. So on this, maybe we make the only allowed category advertising, or maybe we block gambling, or we block alcohol and bars, just kind of like other categories that maybe we don't want my employees spending on with this card. However, on this, for Creed's Facebook ads card, I would probably say, let's make Facebook ads the only allowed merchant. So great, now I've said Facebook ads is the only allowed merchant. That means Creed can only use this virtual card on Facebook ads. It's the only allowed merchant. If he tries to use it anywhere else, maybe by accident, blocked, declined, transaction will not go through. It's specifically designed for Facebook ads. Let's say someone tries to make a fraudulent charge on this card, which hopefully that doesn't happen, but good to protect against it. And they try to spend this somewhere other than Facebook ads, blocked, declined, transaction will not go through. So pretty cool in general, just to have this enforcement of enforcing compliance, but B, really nice security blanket knowing that, okay, people can only spend in the ways that I am restricting them to. So as an admin or owner or manager, it should give you a lot of peace of mind, hopefully, and knowing that you have this control over how your employees are spending. So we'll click Save Changes. And then again, with this advanced additional review section, I need to choose who's going to approve and review all of these transactions. Maybe we still require that manager to review and approve them, or maybe we make a policy that says auto approve, and I don't need the manager to approve them if I know they're only at Facebook ads and I added those additional controls. That's sometimes an example that we see as well. From there, we'll click Issue. Just takes a sec. Okay, and now that card has been created. So when I click on it, it flips around again to reveal all of the card details. And since it's virtual, I'm just going to enter these into whatever website. So Facebook ads, and I can start spending. Also, we know that we said this card would reset weekly. So it's going to reset on the 18th on Sunday night. So reset every week. All right, I'm going to give everyone a minute right now to create a card. If you don't know where to start, I recommend making yourself a physical card if you haven't done so yet. Or you could make that teammate that you invited earlier in the people section, you can make them a physical card. Or if you're feeling like really ambitious on top of it, you could make a vendor specific card. So maybe like a Amazon card or a DoorDash card or an Uber card, something like that, that you know your team spends on quite a bit. Other option would be to have a little intermission. Totally understand if that's the case. We're almost done here, so we have just a few more things to talk about. So if you kind of just, want to get a sip of water, just take a little breather, that's fine too. We are almost at the end. So I'll give like 30 more seconds or so. Let us know if you guys have any other questions as well. Okay, I think we're going to keep going. But if you're still making cards, that's perfectly fine. And we have just a few more things to talk about. So I mentioned this linking of the cards that, you might want to select which virtual card it is before you use the physical card. Not always, as Dory brought up, sometimes the card will be smart enough to know as well which one it is. But in the case that you're like me and you like linking it before the transaction, you would go to My Ramp. And so everyone has this section. Employees, their view is a bit smaller. They don't have like procurement, bill pay, things like that. But everyone has My Ramp. So you'll go into My Ramp. And then over here, you'll see all of your virtual card options. So let's say I do have my office supplies card. We'll just stick with that example. In your accounts, you would see a button that says link to physical card. So you would click that, and then this virtual card, so this office supplies card, would be linked to my physical card. So I would just click link. And then let's say I'm swapping it out, want to do a different one. I would just click into whatever it is. And then once it loads, I would click link to physical card, and that would swap those out. Other thing to point out here is the Ramp app, so the mobile app. I really recommend downloading it if you haven't or you're thinking about it, and having your whole team download it as well, because it makes it really easy to use your cards when you're out and about. Switching between them is even easier than the platform. You just click on the card and it's linked. And then also submitting receipts. So submitting receipts is super easy with Ramp. You'll be texted after you make a transaction to submit the receipt, and then choose either memo or category, however you set it up with your team. Or you could submit them online on the platform, just going into the transactions and attaching them. So that can be done either on the app or on the platform on the computer, which is what I'm on right now. Or you'll be emailed and you can submit it there. So a couple different options of submitting the receipts virtually. But I would say that the Ramp app makes it really easy to just quickly, look at your transactions, quickly get whatever's required of you. So your memos, your receipts, all of that. So I recommend you download the app, and I recommend you tell your team to download it as well. Okay, I think 2 or 3 more things to point out, and then we are almost done here. I'm going to quickly show bill pay and accounting. We have these sessions tomorrow, so come hang out and learn about bill pay and accounting. But as a little preview, here's the bill pay section. And this is where your AP clerks or your AP team would be working out of, bill pay. And then accounting, this is that page right here. Again, if yours looks a little different, it's because you likely haven't set up your accounting yet. So if it's blank here, that makes sense. And we'll do that together in the accounting session tomorrow. I'm going to put in the chat again, ramp.com/training. And definitely sign up for those accounting and bill pay sessions there. Another thing I want to point out or talk about is reimbursements. So we're going to go to expenses and then reimbursements. And there's a few different ways to create reimbursements. So we'll go up here to create. First one is just dragging and dropping the receipt and then manually entering some information. The second way is manual, so having the person, the merchant, the dollar amount, the date, a little blurb about why you made the transaction, anything else, and then dragging and dropping the receipt there as well. And then mileage, the difference with this is it's gas mileage. So it's, you've driven somewhere, you've driven to work or a work event, and you need the actual distance as well. So you would add the person, and then I think this is pretty cool, but you'll put in the start location, you'll put in the destination, and then Ramp will calculate that distance from point A to point B and populate it into the reimbursement. From there, you can add the distance, the date, the memo, the receipt, all of that. So those are the main ways to submit reimbursements. But how do they actually work? How do they get paid out? So someone will submit a reimbursement request. Let's say it's me. Let's say I submit a reimbursement request. So that'll get submitted. From there, it's approved by either the admin or the manager. So reimbursement request gets submitted. It's approved by admin or manager. From there, the funds are pulled from the company's linked bank account and sent via ACH payment to the employee's linked bank account. So I'm going to point something out. This total business limit, this $2 million that my team has to spend every single month, reimbursements do not come out of that. They are separate. Reimbursements do not come out of your total business limit. They are instead pulled from the company's linked bank account. So, reemphasizing, reimbursements don't come out of the total business limit. So someone submits a reimbursement request, it gets approved. Those funds are then pulled from the company's linked bank account and sent via ACH payment to the employee's linked bank account. Now, if you're the person that's approving them, you have two places to do this. One is right here in Needs Review. So we're still in Expenses, Reimbursements, and now clicking Needs Review, and I can see them all here. So if I want to pay David's, I can click Pay. If I want to reject, I can click the three little dots and then click Reject Request, and I can say maybe this goes against company policy, and then I can click Reject, and now that reimbursement request has been rejected. Maybe I approve this one. If I want to bulk approve them, I can do so here with Approve. So that's one place. This is again in Expenses, Reimbursements, and Needs Review. That's one place I can do them. The other place, another thing I want to point out is the inbox. So that's this section right here. As admins and managers, you'll have the inbox. Employees would not have the inbox unless they're like approvers on bills or things like that. Now, if it were me, obviously, do whatever you would like to in your platform. But if it were me, I would come into the inbox to see everything that requires my immediate attention. So I would just streamline my workflow and see what I need to do, what I need to approve, all of that. So I would come into inbox. I would see all of my team's card requests, approve those, issue those cards. I would see my team's transactions. I can approve them here. I can flag them. And again, say this goes against company policy. Sorry, I can flag that. I can continue approving them, so on and so forth. And then again, in inbox, I can see my reimbursements. So I can just approve and pay them out from here. Maybe I reject them from here, whatever it may be. We'll get to bills tomorrow in the bill pay section, but if you're a bill pay approver, you can approve them from the inbox as well. So pretty cool. Just going to look at the chat really quick. And John had a great question about paying reimbursements outside of Ramp. You definitely can if you choose to pay them through your payroll or something like that. And you can still track and approve them through Ramp, like Izzy said. Okay, cool. So this is the inbox. And then again, reimbursements are right here, but you actually look at all of the reimbursements here, and in reimbursements section, this is where you would create them. Okay, just looking through the chat again. We're almost done here, guys, so thanks for following along. Thanks for all of your patience and all of your questions. Before we wrap up, I want to wrap up what we talked about and then share a few more little housekeeping announcements. But to talk about what we talked about today, we talked about best onboarding practices in the setup guide, and then we talked about those expense requirement policies. So do you need to submit a receipt? Do you need to submit a memo? Anything like that? And then how to invite people to your team, which is very exciting. And then from there, how to issue cards. So both physical and virtual cards to yourself, to all of your teammates. And then quick little previews of bill pay and accounting, which we'll talk about more tomorrow in those sessions. And then finally, reimbursements, how they work, how people receive those payments, and all of that.